Good morning, bon matin, et bienvenue à notre réunion spéciale du 20 septembre 2023. Good morning and welcome to our special council meeting of September 20th, 2023. Ouverture de la réunion à 9h03. Déclaration d'intérêt pécuniaire. Aucune. Juste pour vous annoncer qu'il semble qu'on n'est pas quorum, mais on a deux membres du Conseil qui sont sur virtuel, donc M. Brière et Mme Lajoie. Bienvenue par l'entremise de Zoom. Item numéro 3, adoption à l'ordre du jour. Prendrait un proposeur, un appuyeur. M. Lefebvre, appuyé de M. Leroux. Tous en faveur? Ceux qui sont contre? Adopté. Item numéro 4, Bonnie Ruddock, directrice exécutive de la Région 9, Regional Tourist Organization. M. Sarrazin est parmi nous ce matin. Donc, M. Sarrazin, je m'en vais vous donner les honneurs de nous faire la présentation pour le prochain item.
Bien, merci beaucoup, M. le Président, puis mes membres du Conseil. Écoute, ça me fait plaisir d'être ici aujourd'hui pour vous parler un peu de ce qui se passe par rapport au secteur du tourisme dans Prescott-Russell. Juste pour récapituler un peu sur l'historique, on le sait tous, je pense que moi-même, en étant maire avec vous, M. le Président, et M. Leroux, on a siégé à l'époque sur ce qu'on appelait Tourisme Prescott-Russell, qui était un organisme à but non lucratif qui faisait la promotion du tourisme dans Prescott-Russell. Puis, depuis ce temps-là, on le sait, faute de financement, faute de je ne sais pas juste là où ce que ça nous a emmené, mais ça nous a emmené à la dissolution de Tourisme Prescott-Russell il y a maintenant plusieurs années, bien quelques années, oui. Puis à l'époque, on faisait partie on appelle ça RTO, qui est la région touristique de l'Ontario. On faisait partie de la région touristique de l'Ontario 10, puis on était avec Ottawa. Puis, malheureusement, ça fonctionnait peut-être pas, ça répondait pas aux besoins du tourisme dans Prescott-Russell, parce qu'on sait tous qu'Ottawa, c'est une ville très touristique, puis ils ont quand même des façons de générer des revenus à travers des taxes du tourisme qu'ils ont. Donc, pour cette raison-là, on a demandé récemment qu'est-ce qu'on pouvait faire côté tourisme, parce que Prescott-Russell était un peu abandonné côté tourisme. Puis, on a eu la chance de rencontrer à la conférence à Mauve, là, quelques années, puis je pense qu'on était tous là, les maires, le nouveau représentant, justement, pour le ministère du Tourisme et de la Culture et du Sport, M. Louis Bédard, qui est ici aujourd'hui avec nous. C'est le fun d'avoir quelqu'un de la région, qui vit dans Prescott-Russell pour, justement, travailler sur le dossier du tourisme. Prescott-Russell avait besoin de faire partie d'une région touristique, évidemment. On veut développer le tourisme. Il ne faut pas s'en cacher. On a des attractions assez importantes dans la région. À Limoges, on a un des plus gros le parc aquatique de l'Ontario, peut-être même du Canada. Puis, je pense que c'était le fun. Puis récemment, après plusieurs discussions avec des gens, on le sait, on a encore des gens qui sont dans le milieu. On a encore plein de organismes qui un peu travaillent encore dans le milieu touristique. Donc, après discussion avec ces gens-là, on est allé au ministre du Tourisme, puis on a expliqué qu'on était vraiment plus dans aucune... on faisait partie d'RTO, mais ça ne rencontrait pas nos besoins. Donc, suite à la décision du ministère du Tourisme, de la Culture et du Sport, ils ont fait l'annonce récemment d'incorporer Prescott-Russell dans la région RTO 9, qui s'appelle la Southeastern Region, qui, you can correct me if I'm wrong, goes from Quinte West to SDNG and then now to the Quebec border because we're going to be joining. So, je vais inviter Mme Bonnie Ruddock, qui est la directrice de RTO 9, à vous faire une présentation. Vous avez tous reçu l'information. Puis par la suite, je vais vous présenter M. Bédard, qui va faire vite pouvoir peut-être répondre à vos questions. Puis on pourra en discuter à savoir c'est quoi la conclusion du tourisme pour notre secteur. Donc, I will invite you, Bonnie, to just do your presentation. Merci, membre du Conseil.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me here today, and Louis. So I'm Bonnie Ruddock, the Executive Director of RTO 9. You could go to the next slide, sorry. Okay, so we are a regional tourism organization. So the regional tourism organizations were started in 2010 following a report that was commissioned by the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport. Originally we had 13 of them in the province. There are 11 now. And our annual funding comes from the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport. So we have a TPA, a transfer payment agreement with them each year. We're on a government fiscal year. Our organization is governed by a 13-member board of directors, and our seats are designated East, West, and Central across southeastern Ontario, and I have a map coming up. And we work with 3 regional development regional development advisors, sorry. So Louis is here, Louis Bedard. I also work with Mia Robertson and Katie Crowley. Next slide, please. So these are our current boundaries. The map has not been updated yet to include Prescott-Russell. So as noted, we start at the Ontario-Quebec border in Cornwall and come straight down the St. Lawrence River down to Trenton. We also cover Prince Edward County. We share the Rideau Canal with 2 other organizations. And the map is being updated by the ministry. Perfect. No, go ahead, sorry. So this is what we like to call our tourism funnel, just to give you an idea of sort of how the communication works and sort of where everyone sort of sits on the funnel. So you have your industries and your businesses, you have your DMOs and your DMPs, which are your destination marketing organizations and your destination marketing programs. And then you have your RTOs across the province. Then you have Destination Ontario and Destination Canada. So we sort of work up and down the funnel. We work with our DMOs and DMPs, we work with our businesses, but we also feed information up to Destination Ontario, which then feeds it up to Destination Canada to promote Canada and Ontario. Next slide, please. So we work under 5 pillars, and these 5 pillars are set by the ministry each year. So we have product development, marketing, workforce development, investment attraction, and partnerships. So I'm just going to go over some of the initiatives we do under each of the pillars. So currently under product development, we're working on a regional film initiative. So we have a page on our website that shows the different potential production spots within each of our communities. So we will be out and gathering some information for Prescott-Russell and adding you to our website. Under this pillar, we also work with Indigenous Tourism Ontario. So we've been working with Akwesasne as well as Tyendinaga to develop product within those regions for promotion. We work with the LGBT community, so we do workshops. We are a Rainbow Registered organization as well, and we've got a workshop coming up in Cornwall shortly. We just received our bronze certification from Green Step, so we are a sustainable tourism organization. So we have an action plan that we'll be implementing over the next couple of months with our goal to get as many businesses across southeastern Ontario certified as well as a sustainable tourism organization. And as I mentioned, we do run a variety of workshops. They can include marketing, experiential tourism development, so just a number of things across the region. And we usually survey our businesses to find out what exactly they're looking for, and we work with our destinations as well. Under our marketing pillar, which is probably our biggest pillar, we have a number of activities that take place, and we do a regional approach to things. So when we do our marketing, it's always about the region as a whole, and we like to promote various destinations together. We have a consumer site, we run a Facebook page, we have X, and we run Instagram as well. We work with an agency of record out of Ottawa, Alphabet Creative, and we also work with Tartan Bond, which is our PR agency. Each year we usually do a spring cruise campaign because cruise is big for the Thousand Islands, and we have 4 different cruise companies that run, so we promote them usually in the spring. We did this year a U.S. Market Drive campaign with Destination Ontario. So we promoted the Southeastern Ontario to the 2 to 3 hour drive market in Upper New York State. We work with the Culinary Tourism Alliance as well. So we do written content on farm-to-table experiences, rural small towns, and the content is shared on their social platforms as well as ours. We've worked with Ontario by Bike to develop cycling routes, and all the cycling routes can be found and downloaded off of our consumer site as well. And we do a number of FAM tours across the region. And we do a FAM tour, we usually include 2 or 3 destinations at a time. So a FAM tour is a familiarization tour where we bring in travel media from around the globe to write stories and talk about our region. We do a lot of, earned media as well. And we have a photo library that we also provide the photos to Destination Ontario. So if they're looking to do a promotion about Southeastern Ontario, we have a good photo library with some video assets as well to share. And we produce a Southeastern Ontario map that gets distributed into the visitor centres across the region, into Toronto, into Ottawa, and various places. And we do a lot of itinerary development too and packages. So we build 2 or 3 day itineraries for people to travel by car, but we also work with a company called Lansby to do packages, and they sell the packages on their website. And we've also worked with Via Rail on a Rail and Roam campaign. Next slide. So this just talks a bit about or shows you a bit about our itineraries and packages that we've done. So 3 days of food and wine in the Thousand Islands Rideau Canal waterways, get the fork out of town, go to the SD counties and Bay of Quinte, and then we've got our 2 days of wreck diving in Southeastern Ontario. Can you go back to the next slide now? Thank you. So our next pillar is workforce development. So for probably 5 years now, we've been working with the Ontario Tourism Education Corporation. We have 3 regional working groups across Southeastern Ontario. And what we do is we work on workforce development. And we have service agencies on the committees. We have employers on the committee. So the workforce issues in tourism were there before COVID, and they were just amplified once COVID hit, but we're still working on that. We do job fairs and we promote them across the region, so we work with various organizations for that. We worked with St. Lawrence College a few years ago to build a mobile unit. So what the mobile unit does is it goes around to high schools and it just talks about tourism and as a career and getting into that. And right now we're working on a TSN program, it's called, a Tourism Skills Network. We're working with RTO 13 in the north and RTO 7 on training for individuals with employers, so there's wage subsidies available for that. Do you want me to keep going? Go ahead. Okay. Under investment attraction, we work with the Ontario East Economic Development Corporation. I serve on their board of directors, so we work with them to promote investment into Ontario. We work with another organization, CBRE, and what they do is they collect hotel data. So we have that hotel data available on our website, which shows RevPAR, occupancy rates, etc. And we do a lot of research as well, both on the industry and the consumer side. We work with a company called 2031, and we have our industry newsletter that goes out every month, as well as our consumer newsletter. We work with the Great Lakes Cruising Association. We've done a FAM tour with them where they bring in different cruise operators from around the globe, actually, to show them how great cruising would be along the Great Lakes. And we're working with Viking Cruising right now, so we're hoping to have them down for a FAM tour in the spring. I think maybe the next slide, partnerships. Oh, okay. Do you want me to keep talking? Okay. So under partnerships, we like to work with different organizations. So we work with the Tourism Industry Association of Ontario, TIO. We work with ITO, I mentioned earlier, the Indigenous Tourism Ontario. And we also work with TIAC, which is the Tourism Association for Canada. We work with other RTOs as well. As I mentioned, through the TSN program, we've worked with 2 different RTOs, and we share a lot of information amongst the RTOs as well. And we have a partnership fund program. So with our funding every year, a portion of it is designated to partnership funds. So the ministry requires us to leverage that money 50-50 with different partners. So this year, the categories that we worked under were new events, guided experiences or trails, and Indigenous products. And as an example, I have on the one slide, we work with Springfield Farm to do a farm-to-table event that saw 120 people come together for a night for an outdoor experience of farm food. And that's all my slides. Thank you. Is there any questions? And I do have a few things that I would like to ask, but if there's any questions, I can take those first.
Mr. CAO, maybe we could join you at the table there and like we each have a microphone and we can make it more like a discussion, if you don't mind. So, is that okay with you, Mr. Warden?
100% d'accord. Go ahead. Any questions from council members? Non? On peut pas voir les Zooms, là, donc faut prendre un break. Nos deux membres sont plus connectés. Donc, on prend le temps que ça va prendre pour se reconnecter. Monsieur Parisien.
Monsieur le Président, les deux maires qui nous ont rejoints par le virtuel n'ont pas de son et d'image à ce stade-ci. Donc, est-ce qu'on peut attendre? Peux-tu prendre une petite pause, le temps qu'on puisse rectifier nos problèmes techniques pour reprendre avec ces deux membres-là, s'il vous plaît?
On est de retour de notre pause, so we are back from our small break. Technical difficulties, there seem to be all set back in order. So, Monsieur Parisien, j'imagine que c'est la prochaine, ou Monsieur Sarrazin. Ouais, mais c'est un des deux, là. Je me suis pas trompé de nom, j'ai... Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I mean, I hope everybody had a chance to, assist to the presentation, and thank you, Bonnie, for the presentation. Of course, we're here today to get your input on the tourism file. I know for a long time it used to be Prescott-Russell, the upper tier municipality that would actually, be in charge of the tourism, and today we're here to answer some questions, and I think it would be nice if we can have an open discussion because every municipality is involved, and if ever, and Bonnie can maybe tell us more about how it's going to be done. Are we going to have somebody from our region to sit on the RTO 9 board, or what's the plan? Because at the end of the day, if we have somebody, we have a champion here in the region that can sit on that board and can then, participate to some meetings with our local. We have a whole bunch of organization. We have the Eastern Ontario Agri-Food Network, Louis Bellin, who is already known by RTO9. Has been working in the tourism agri-food sector, and we have a whole bunch of organization. Like I'll just to name a few. Like the trail, the Prescott-Russell Trail Recreational Trail organization, and I could name a few, and recently we were at a meeting with our colleagues from Quebec, and we talked about, like the Parc de l'Amitié and the Cycloroute project. So maybe it would be nice to have somebody that would represent us here in the region that could actually work with these guys to make sure that we do more for tourism in the area. I mean, a lot of questions, a lot of things I think we'll have to address. I know, Prescott-Russell used to take care of the blue signs along the roads for the tourism. I think there's a lot of discussion that needs to take place, but at least if we can start today, if we want to give the mandate, and maybe Bonnie can explain us what she expects from us, because at the end of the day, I mean, she's the director of the organization, so.
Great. Okay. Thank you. So in terms of our board, I'll just address that first. So the way our board is set up, we're a skill-based board. So although we're set up in 3 sort of east, central, and west, what we do is we take applications in. So they're for 3-year terms. So every year, 4 or 5 of our directors depart the board, so that we have consistency amongst a majority amount of directors. So those seats are they could be 2 in the east, 1 central, 1 west. It's hard to say, like it varies each year. So then we open the process up. We have a governance committee that looks at those applications, and we look at the skills of the individuals that have applied, and then they are appointed by the board at our annual general meeting, which usually takes place in June each year. So I can let you know moving forward sort of what the seats are coming up next June. I don't really know just off the top, but I can let you know because you would fall into our east category. So I guess I'll just start. Oh, Louis, do you want to talk first?
Oh, no, my own meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just is that okay?
Yeah. Oh, Mr. Warden.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, speaker doesn't work.
Oh, here.
Press another. Oh, no, together.
Trade chairs. Okay.
Ah, Monsieur le député, Madame, excusez-moi.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
OK. Bonjour, Madame, Messieurs, Monsieur le député. Mon nom est Louis Bédard. Je suis un conseiller en développement régional. Je travaille pour le gouvernement de l'Ontario. Je ne représente pas le RTO, mais je travaille avec eux pour les soutenir quand je peux. Par contre, je travaille directement avec les municipalités ou peu importe l'organisme qui voudrait faire une demande de fonds publics pour les aider avec des festivals ou tout ce qui touche au tourisme. Je vous donne un exemple. la fête multiculturelle Logsbury. Nous avons donné des fonds cette année. Je travaille avec les organisateurs. Je suis le lien pour faire le contrat entre les fonds offerts par le gouvernement de l'Ontario et l'organisme. OK? Où on a un TDF, c'est le Fonds de développement touristique, qui est offert, qui vient de fermer. Bon, ben moi, je travaille avec les organismes qui voudraient appliquer, puis moi, je les supporte là-dedans. S'ils ont des questions, les aviser et tout ça. OK? Alors, je suis tout le temps là pour aider la région de Prescott-Russell. Je couvre plutôt de la 416 jusqu'aux lignes du Québec, du fleuve Saint-Laurent jusqu'à la rivière des Outaouais. OK? Dont Prescott-Russell. Je connais la région. Comme M. le député a dit, je suis originairement d'Alfred, puis je demeure à Limoges. Alors, je suis toujours prêt à aider les municipalités puis les organismes à l'intérieur de ces municipalités-là. Tout simplement pour vous dire que quand les gens, peu importe c'est quoi la question, pour des programmes touristiques offerts, des programmes touristiques ou de développement offerts par notre gouvernement provincial, je suis là pour répondre à toutes les questions et les supporter. C'est ça, en gros, c'est ça. OK? Si vous avez des questions après, je pourrais y répondre après Bonnie. Merci.
Merci, M. Bédard. M. Sarrazin?
If I can add to this, I mean, every time there's a nonprofit organization, there's a municipality, they need some funds for events, I always send them to Louis. And some organization, they'll exactly, say what they need from the Ministry of Tourism, Sports, and Culture. And Louis would actually look at what's available as funding and which program is more suitable for the organization. So I invite you to communicate with me or Louis directly, and you can do the same when, you got organization from your municipality that does reach out to you, and then you can just forward to information. And I think it's really refreshing. I mean, I'm not sure. I only been here for a year with the province, but I think it's great to have this opportunity to have Mr. Bedar and his crew that is actually available to answer all the organizations. So, and I don't know if I think it would be nice if you have any questions, and if you would like to tell us about, like, if you want your municipality on board with these, because I know the reason we're here and we're trying to maybe try to work with some organization in the future, because I know with everything that's been going on, municipality have more and more work to do these days. We have people that does the economic development, and we have like all kinds of different, how would I say that, division in the municipality that we didn't have before, and it's becoming, quite, it's becoming a lot of burden for the municipalities. So I'm just here. I'm open to see what you would like as leaders as a role in that file, on that file.
Thank you, Mr. Sarrazin. Mr. Kirby, après ça, M. Leroux.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Some years ago, we had the Festival de la Rivière Ottawa. Maybe Mr. Parisien can help me out on that a little bit. Do you remember? We went on a boat trip, and you rode in a tube to come back and didn't walk for 3 days or so. I forget how that worked, but I enjoyed it, and the people were out on the edges watching, and I wonder if we can go back and make something work with the river, because it's all along it's a border, and just thinking of what might be done there.
I think I can answer to this. I mean, we've been listening at Bonnie. They have river cruise on the St. Lawrence Seaway. Maybe it's something we could promote in the future. I know I know it happened in the past, and I think it would be great because we just met recently with the MRCs in Quebec, you know, with the Pacte de l'Amitié, and I think there's a lot of things we could do together, and I think it's a great opportunity, you know, being with the RTO 9. I know RTO 10, like Ottawa, had like, you know, a lot of tourism, and maybe they didn't have a chance to work more towards the rural municipalities, but I think now it's a good opportunity to have somebody at the table and look at all these nice projects that could happen in the future, for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Kirby. Monsieur Leroux?
Merci, Monsieur le Président. First question, Mr. Kirby. If anybody has video of that, I would love to see it. I think my question is more in regards to funding structure. I guess because we were with RTO 10 before, is there like a certain amount that's dedicated to our region and that basically it would be going back to RTO 9 and, you know, I just want to understand the funding aspect a little bit more.
Yeah, so we don't take our budget and divide it amongst any certain regions or destinations. So currently we work with 10 destinations, so United Counties of Prescott-Russell would be our 11th destination. So what we do is we look at initiatives and we look how we can like join communities together. So, you know, I've been talking with my staff, which is there, about, you know, doing some blogs and stuff just to sort of get started and how we can incorporate somebody coming, say, from Ottawa or Montreal, starting in Prescott-Russell, you know, doing some stuff in South Dundas, Glengarry, and Cornwall. So it's just sort of bringing them together within those communities. So as a regional tourism organization, that's sort of our mandate, is to do regional tourism, nothing specific to any county or municipality or city or town. We combined our efforts together where it sort of makes sense. We look for commonalities within the community, so whether it's cycling trails or hiking trails or anything like that. As I mentioned, we have cycling routes on our website. So one of the questions I had was, and I believe one of my staff has reached out to, I think, Genevieve. I know there's two Genevieves, so I'm not sure which one. In regards to assets. So Leslie, our digital marketing manager, who's new to our team, she just lives in Long Sault, so she's not that far away. She's looking for some digital assets if they can be shared, if any of the municipalities have any, so photos or videos that you could send to us, that would be very helpful. That will help us start to build up our database of inventory for promotion. And then one of my first questions was, of course, like, how can we help you? Getting back to your festival, yes, that would be something we could promote in the future. We do have partnership funds, so if there's something new, we could maybe partner with the event coordinator or whatever on that. We do try to work with our individual operators because we have just found over the years that we've been operating that they are the true sort of boots on the ground people that create. So we work a lot with the operators in terms of product development because they're the ones that are creating the various products for us to promote. And then getting back to sort of how we work with our 10 destinations. So each of our destinations typically has a DMO or DMP, and I know that's not the case in the United Counties here. So we would look for one central contact person just because we do, again, have 10 destinations already to work with. So we would look for a central contact person that could provide information to us. So sort of getting back to that tourism funnel a bit, the information funnels up to us, which we can then funnel up to Destination Ontario and to Destination Canada. So we do a lot of repurposing of what we do in terms of our social channels. We do create new and with our itineraries and our blogs, but we also do a lot of resharing. So when things are happening within a community, we like to be tourism-specific events, or we like to be tagged in them. But I can, again, those are the sort of things that we really need one central point person to have these conversations with so they can better understand how our marketing works, our product development, and our every sort of our 5 pillars. So that's what I was kind of hoping to get, not necessarily an answer today, but just to think about that and how we can work with one person. And I know Louis Ballon had mentioned that to Leslie, one of our staff. about maybe considering being that person. So I don't know. That's not my decision. I feel it's the county's decision to make. So I'm just wanted to throw that out there and give you something to think about.
Merci, M. Leroux. M. Sarrazin. Après ça, m'aller à Mme Lajoie parce qu'elle a une question concernant...
Merci, Monsieur le Président. If I could just add to this, I mean, I was actually speaking with Mr. Bellin because I wanted to know the story, you know, because like at one point there was some assets with Tourism Prescott-Russell, and when it actually terminated, they went to another organization, a nonprofit that was Local It or something like that. They just, yeah, you probably didn't hear about it too much, but it was they form another organization, and from what I can understand, most of these assets or information was passed along to the Eastern Ontario Agri-Food Network, with Louis Bellin being the director of the, and I'm not sure, do we still have one member here of the council that is on the Eastern Ontario Agri-Food Network board? So Geneviève Lajoie is actually there. So maybe, you know, she can probably have heard some discussion about that, but I think they're really interested in getting, you know, the tourism part because they already do have the agro-tourism. So that's pretty much...
Merci, M. Sarrazin. M. Parisien, Mme Lajoie.
Oui, Monsieur le Président, membre du Conseil, merci. From the administration's perspective, it's clear for us to say that we're not really interested in taking this on. So whomever council chooses to be the person moving this forward is kind of fine with us right now because we have restructured ACDEV and economic development. Tourism is no longer part of our portfolio, so we're fine with council appointing someone else to take this over.
Thank you, Mr. Parisien. Madame Lajoie, your turn. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to echo, thank you, Mr. President, just wanted to echo what Mr. Sarrazin mentioned about Louis Bellin. Work with him on the board, and he has brilliant ideas for the Agri-Food Network. And in terms of partnering, I would absolutely love to offer my support in Castleman for this program. We have a lot of initiatives happening in Castleman that we would love to work with you with, including a bird watching kind of area that we're creating. I just want to throw that out to you guys, and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Mme Lajoie. Any other comments, M. Lefebvre?
Oui, merci, M. le Président, et merci, M. Sarrazin, pour avoir organisé cette rencontre-là et nous renseigner et nous informer sur cet aspect-là. Au point que j'ai demandé à notre directrice de loisirs et de tourisme de venir ici aujourd'hui avec nous pour apprendre. Elle est nouvellement arrivée à ce poste-là, puis elle a beaucoup d'idées. Alors, merci, Mme Goulet, pour être ici avec nous aujourd'hui. Thank you also, M. Bédard. Pour votre présentation, ainsi que Ms. Bonnie, how you do, and thank you for your presentations. It's very interesting. My few questions that I have is, do you work closely with the local business associations, BIAs and chambers of commerce, or do you basically try to focal to the various different groups that are interested in your services?
Yes, we do to some degree. So as an example, in Gananoque, where I live, the DMO is actually the Chamber of Commerce. So yes, we will work with the Chamber of Commerce. We don't work a lot directly with BIAs because their mandate's a bit different than tourism. So whereas Chambers of Commerce tend to take over tourism services or visitor services. So we do work with them in that situation, yes.
Thank you. Puis, M. Bédard, juste une question, parce que vous représentez le ministère et tout. Oui. Quelle association ou, disons, sorte de travail que vous faites avec d'autres organisations où on peut aller chercher des fonds, des bailleurs de fonds, comme, disons, Ontario Trillium? Si on a une application devant eux, à qui on adresse? On va-tu aux députés ou à vous ou aux deux? Parce que souvent, ces organisations-là sont retirées un peu de la province, mais ils sont quand même octroyés dans un sens par le gouvernement. Alors, j'aimerais mieux comprendre la relation, vous et nos demandes de subventions qu'on a souvent. Et on ne va pas toujours approcher notre député parce que je sais qu'il est pris puis il ne peut pas toujours nous aider. Mais j'aimerais ça voir cette relation-là parce qu'on a toujours besoin des fonds pour promouvoir. Puis je parle au nom de la ville de Hawkesbury, bien entendu. On est quand même à l'entrée de la province. Alors, j'aimerais ça apprendre un petit peu plus. Puis c'est Mme Goulet, peut-être aussi, elle a des questions pour vous, peut-être à la fin de la journée. Merci.
Parfait. Merci beaucoup pour votre question. J'allais lever ma main pour apporter le point que je vais vous donner. Alors, je vous remercie. Comme M. le député a dit tantôt, moi, je suis le lien direct pour avoir accès à des fonds possibles avec des programmes du gouvernement de l'Ontario. Alors, vous m'appelez, votre organisme, ou madame, m'appelle. Louis, on veut faire telle activité. Y a-t-il des fonds disponibles? Moi, immédiatement, j'ai dit, OK, nous, pour ce qui est du tourisme, on avait Expérience Ontario du printemps. Admettons qu'elle m'appelle, je dis oui, voici les applications, les étapes et tout ça, puis on en discute, puis j'y aide. Par contre, s'il n'y a pas de programme disponible, moi, je la réfère, je vais sur notre site, je la réfère à notre site, puis on discute, puis OK, Trillium. Là, je vais la mettre en contact avec des gens de Trillium. Mais en cas de doute, vous m'appelez, bien, des gens là, responsables m'appellent, m'écrivent un courriel, puis moi, je démarre la machine. C'est ça, bien, ça fait en partie de mon travail. Là, le point m'échappe. Excusez-moi. Il y a aussi des programmes futurs aussi qu'on peut discuter. Ça peut être juste l'année prochaine. Bon, il faut commencer à travailler dessus tout de suite. Ah oui, je voulais dire aussi. Un des premiers réflexes aussi, je vais vous référer l'organisme ou la personne au RTO. OK? Parce que nous, on a des programmes. Gère les programmes, les fonds de notre programme. Par contre, il y a beaucoup de choses à être faites alentour et avant de pouvoir appliquer. Ils passent par le service offert du RTO. OK? Parce qu'il y a beaucoup de questions qu'eux peuvent répondre, la formation, avoir accès à des, comme je dis, la formation, peut-être même écrire pour faire des demandes et tout ça. Moi, je vais gérer le contrat puis tout l'exercice qui entoure l'application pour un de nos programmes au gouvernement provincial.
Merci beaucoup, M. Bédard. Je suis certain qu'on va utiliser vos services bientôt. Mme Goulet est très attentive à vos commentaires, puis je suis certain qu'elle va vous contacter. Si vous n'avez pas déjà eu la chance de vous rencontrer, je ne sais pas, mais en tout cas, merci pour votre présentation. C'est bien informé.
Merci.
Merci, M. Lefebvre. M. Sarrazin, après ça, M. Leroux.
Merci, M. le Président. Je voulais juste dire de jamais n'hésiter à nous envoyer à notre bureau du député vos demandes Trillium ou quoi que ce soit. C'est sûr que c'est bon qu'on soit au courant. C'est sûr que c'est M. Bédard qui va gérer par rapport aux touristes. Mais nous, c'est toujours bon de savoir. Puis je dois dire, comme Ontario Trillium Foundation, l'enveloppe vient du gouvernement en partant de l'Ontario. Puis comme toute autre organisation, il y a des membres, des nouveaux membres. Ça change les membres sur le conseil d'administration. Puis nous, on fait sûr qu'on a des gens de notre région qui ont un mot à dire. On en a qui ont été nominés récemment. Donc, c'est le fun de travailler. Mais c'est toujours bien de savoir qu'est-ce que vous appliquez pour quel programme Trillium. C'est sûr qu'on peut pas... C'est pas nous autres qui prenons la décision, mais au moins, on peut suivre ça puis savoir d'une fois à l'autre. Puis des fois, si vous appliquez pour quelque chose sur le programme Trillium, vous n'avez pas eu de succès, mais peut-être par la suite, il peut y avoir un autre programme à travers du ministère qui peut venir combler les fonds. Puis c'est des choses qu'on peut regarder. Absolument.
Merci, M. Sarrazin. Puis je sais qu'on a toujours l'habitude de vous faire parvenir les demandes d'octroi. Merci.
M. Leroux.
Merci, Mr. President. Thank you very much. I think, from my perspective, I tend to agree with the administration. I mean, we're no longer in the tourism game. at the county level. So I'm fully comfortable appointing, for example, Monsieur Louis Bélin as being the key contact person so that, you know, our municipalities could go to that organization. I guess my question would be for Monsieur Bélin, if as a county we decide that's the route we have to take, what resources is he going to be asking for, right? Is he going to be saying, well, in order for, you know, Agri-Food to do this, I'm going to need this? Because I know that at one point they came to the United Counties and made a presentation, and if I remember well, they were asking for some additional funding. So I just want to, you know, I'm quite open to the idea of that organization leading the charge for us and being the key contact person for the RTO. I just want to make sure that we're, you know, making sure that we're dotting our T's and crossing our I's before we go there. And that would be something that could be raised during budget deliberations to have an idea. You know, I think it's great that we look at things from a regional approach. As far as things going on in our community that we can promote, well, I think everybody here has a fair, agricultural fair that happens, you know. So you have a cycling tour, maybe you have you know, a tour for all the region of all the fairs that are going on, you know. I know young families love to go to those things. So I think there's great opportunities here. And I think it's just getting into the further details as to what the impact on the corporation of the United Counties would be.
Very true, Mr. Leroux. Thank you so much. Monsieur Parisien?
Thank you, Mr. Ward, members of council. Just for the sake of clarity, because there seems to be some confusion, and then this is a question I ask of Mr. Sarrazin, is this funding normally flowed through the counties or not?
You want to answer? The funding will not flow through the county. What we're expecting, and of course, like Bonnie could add to this, we're expecting RTO 9 to become a bigger region, to have a bigger envelope of money. Of course, you know, because you're not gonna, you know, get bigger as an organization, represent more like municipalities and get the same money. We're hoping it's not gonna happen. And then, you know, it'll be decided like within the board members how this money will be distributed. And I can let you add to this, Bonnie.
Yes, so the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport will be increasing our budget next year because we have taken on additional geographic regions. We do strategic planning with our board, which we actually just did about a week ago. So we're just in the process now of continuing to work with the consulting agency that we did that with. And then just so you know the process, then what happens is as staff, I write the operational plan. I pass that plan along to the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport. Usually the time frame is before Christmas. And then they get back to us with the transfer payment agreement with our budget usually in March for our fiscal year to start April 1st. So again, we as staff look at the budget with the 5 pillars that we have that I outlined, and I go back to my board and say, you know, based on the strategic goals that you've set for the staff, these are the initiatives and activities we want to undertake underneath these 5 pillars. And they say yes or no, and then I put that into an actual operations plan, business plan, and it goes off to the ministry. So again, like Prescott-Russell will just sort of become a piece of our big group of geography. So there's nothing sort of specific that we're going to say in the plan, we're going to do this in Prescott-Russell. It will be, what are we doing to increase tourism in southeastern Ontario? And it'll be, you know, similar to the activities I outlined, and it will be, okay, so how do we incorporate those into all of the communities that we serve?
Thank you, Madame Rodock. Monsieur Parisien?
Yeah, it was a two-part question, Mr. Warden. So if the money's not flowing through the counties, then we don't have to make a decision on that today. I guess your ask is it okay for Le Réseau to sit in on RTO 9 on our behalf? So if that's, no, I'm trying to bring it down to its simplest form. So if the ask is to have Le Réseau Agri-Food sit on our behalf on RTO 9, I think that's what should come to council next week in the form of a resolution. And we're good, we're done.
That's the route to take, correct?
Yeah, so that would be fine. So Louis would be a contact person for us, just like, as I mentioned, we work with the other destinations as a contact person. If I could just for a minute, I do have a couple other questions. Would that be okay? Is there any databases that you can share with us, either as individual municipalities or as the county? So we're looking for your tourism databases, so who your businesses are in terms of accommodation, attractions, retail. So because one of the things that Louis and I would like to do is we'd like to do a couple what we call stakeholder consultations. So we'd like to come back into Prescott-Russell and have a few meetings with the stakeholders so the businesses get to know the RTO and they know the services we offer. So if you have any databases you could share for contact purposes, that would be great if we could get that from you. And then the other question I had, but I think I know the answer, is there a central compository website for events that happen? So it doesn't sound like at the county level you probably undertake anything like that. I did take a look at your website, so I see you do have a tourism page on your website. But I don't think I saw much in terms of events for the whole county. And then, sorry.
Good question. I do believe at our township, we advertise on our website. I'm not 100% sure for the counties because we no longer have that department in place, so I'll let Mr. Parisien
Mr.
respond.
Warden, everything's outdated. It's almost better to start from scratch, so.
And as far as data tourism, I'd be very doubtful because most of our townships, it's individuals that do set up events, and the data would not be recorded. We have I would say a small knowledge of where people come from, but to keep it in a database, it would not be done, especially at our township. I can't speak for others because Rockland is quite big, Russell is quite big, Hawkesbury is quite big, so maybe they do carry a database. But for Prescott-Russell, I'm not sure if we do have a database for tourism.
No. And Mr. Warden, I'm going to go as far as suggest that we prepare a resolution for next week, drafting it with consulting with Bonnie to say that L'Oiseau can take over, can sit on the RTO 9 on our behalf, if that's if that suffices.
Yeah, no, that's fine. The other reason, sorry, I was looking for the database was we've worked with a consulting agency, 2031, and we actually just produced a asset inventory for the whole region. So what I want to do now is I've gone back to them, and we're going to incorporate the counties, the United Counties, into that. So that's where I was kind of hoping to help them out a little bit, that we could find some sort of asset inventory database, because what we're then going to do is we're going to have them do a very high-level tourism plan for the United Counties, which will help us as an organization as well, and we can work with Louis on that too. So I did have another ask there. If each of the municipalities had any funding they could contribute towards it. It will be very high level with the amount of funding we have, but we could dig deeper into it if we could receive additional funds from any of the municipalities.
That would be ask in regards to each township to see if they do have funding or funds available. That would be discussed at budget time. Besides that, my only ask would be if Mr. Bellin becomes the spokesperson for this area, when there is a ask from an event organizer or from the township, do we go through him in order to go through you guys, or we have access to RTO 9 directly?
You can have access to RTO 9 directly. It just gets a little more complicated, I guess, from our side, just because we have such a big region. That's why we do look for the point, but that's not to say that we don't work with, anyone who comes to us, we're not going to turn you away. We will have the conversation, but when it gets to our marketing specifically, so if Leslie's working on things, she would prefer to have that one point of contact. Yeah.
Which would be Mr. Bellin.
Yes.
Je passe à M. Laviolette, parce que M. Laviolette avait une question, puis là, j'en ai deux autres à ma droite. M. Laviolette.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Congratulations for your presentation. I have two simple questions. I guess you answered one of them. What kind of a budget do you have, and where do you get your funds?
So right now, our budget is 1.3 million, and we're completely funded by the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport. So that will increase next year because we're taking on the county. And they have given us some funds right now to do, because we need to look at the organization as a whole. We need to update our website, our maps, and a few other things that we're working on right now just to get Prescott-Russell incorporated into everything we do. So that funding will continue on into next year.
Thank you. Merci, M. Laviolette. Je m'en vais avec Mme Lajoie. Elle a la main levée. Après ça, M. Lefebvre, M. Leroux.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. President. I just, in regards to what you need from the municipalities, would it be possible for you to provide some sort of package that we could pass on to our staff so that they can understand the program, and or possibly do a delegation if RTO9 is looking for funding? Because right now, Castleman's in a position where we have to invest a lot of money to fix our water infrastructure. So I think funding this will be a challenge for us, but we do have the UCPR funds for the community well-being, which is another stream and a possibility. So I would just ask that that something be put in writing and provided to us so that I could share it with the council so that they could better understand the program as a whole.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I'll just get your guidance. Should I do something through the CAO or individually to the mayors?
I'll let Mr. Parisien answer because he's...
I guess, Mr. Warden, what I would do now, I start off with the counties. Hypothetically speaking, if Le Réseau takes over or sits on RTO, our link with RTO is going to be done through Le Réseau because we have Ms. Lajoie that sits on the board of directors. So we still have a lean somewhat or a voice that remains there. But I would start off with the proper process, which would be to draft that resolution, adopt it next week, and then things will get into motion. And like I say, we still have a say through our membership at the board of directors on Le Réseau, which will now sit on RTO. It's complicated, but it's simple at the same time.
C'est une patte d'araignée bien connectée. Monsieur Lefebvre.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. And Ms. Roddick, you touched base briefly as to the process, your budgeting process, and so forth, and your strategic plan, and how you submit it to the ministry, and you have an agreement signed with the transfer. At what level do you expect participation, or is there participation from your members, or the membership, or the municipalities, or do we have to funnel through maybe our representative to RTO? So that's just my question in terms of I'm a finance person, basically. So I was curious when you addressed that comment. Thank you.
Yeah, in terms of flow of information, we would work directly with the Agri-Foods Network, more so for our marketing purposes. We would encourage the databases to come to us if possible for the businesses, because we do like to work directly with the businesses. We have an industry newsletter that we send out every month. So what we hope to do is get that information out to the businesses in the counties here for workshop purposes, any partnership fund opportunities or any other opportunities that come up. We funnel a lot of information, not just with what we're doing, but with the province is doing. So if the province has a granting system, again, we like to get those things into our newsletter and get them out to the individual businesses. So that's where we sort of work with the businesses. And we share that information with our destinations. So that letter would also go to the Agri-Food Network, and we would encourage them to pass it along to their members as well. We're not a membership-driven organization in the true sense of membership. There's no fees or anything. We represent all tourism businesses within our geographic boundaries.
Okay. So basically, you build up this process coming to a head for your budgeting process, right? Is that correct?
Yes, if I'm understanding your question.
Yeah, exactly. In other words, you have to build it up to be able to submit your strategic plan and budgeting purposes to the ministry for funding.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Merci, M. Lefebvre. M. Leroux.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. It was just in relation what I was going to say, Monsieur Parisien said in part. I see this as the step process is that the resolution comes to council. If approved, there's a letter written that says that the counties have appointed this organization as our DMO or DMP to all the CAOs of the counties. And in that letter can be coordinated some of the questions that the RTO is looking for, and that way we know, and that our municipalities, whoever is responsible for that type of information, can pass along any information they have. So I don't, like as Monsieur Parisien said, it seems complicated, but it's not. It's just, here's a letter, pass a resolution, send a letter to all the municipalities, and then forward the information if we have any.
Merci, M. Leroux. M. Sarrazin.
We were talking earlier about information, from like data, and I think once again the Eastern Ontario Agri-Food Network are the best people because when there was the dissolution of Tourism Prescott-Russell, I believe Mr. Bellin had just started with the organization, so he went through, and I'm sure he would be able to provide some information. And I think to make it really simple, what would be the best case scenario for our region is to have somebody like Mr. Bellin, I'm saying the director of the Eastern Ontario Agri-Food Network, sitting at the table at RTO 9, but then sitting at the table with all our municipalities and all our organizations to be the voice of our region back to RTO 9. And I think that would be the best case scenario for all of us.
Le message est bien entendu, M. Sarrazin. Je peux pas débattre le point. Je pense que la personne contact est la bonne. D'où ce qu'il siège, c'est quand même un poste important dans le centre agricole. Donc, il pourra peut-être certainement venir en aide ou dans notre région encore plus à travers du RTO 9. Monsieur Parisien.
Oui, en complémentaire, Monsieur le Président, vous savez que le réseau fait aussi une demande de financement aux Conseils de façon annuelle. Donc, ils vont revenir cette année, je présume, pour soit demander une augmentation, mais le Conseil avait eu des directives assez claires l'année dernière sur la portion de financement que les deux autres partenaires devaient donner. Donc, vous avez toujours l'occasion de parler à M. Bellin, advenant que ceci va de l'avant. Là, vous allez avoir la chance annuellement de lui parler là, de tourisme si vous voulez. Ça pourrait être fait de façon régulière par l'entremise du membre qui siège au sein du CA, mais également avec lui quand il reviendra faire sa demande de financement annuellement pour le réseau.
Merci, M. Parisien. Madame Lajoie.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Just also a heads up, we're with the Agri-Food Network. Louis Bellin works part-time for the board, and we are in need of a lot of funding, so I'm hoping RTO 9 will be able to fund the Agri-Food Network in addition to the other regions that support it, because we will need a lot of additional funding in order for it to be able to expand. So just a heads up.
Is there a response? Thank you, Madame Lajoie.
Unfortunately, I can tell you right now the answer is no. We are unable to fund any organizations. That's part of our agreement with the ministry. It's called flow-through, which we're not allowed to do. We represent the various businesses, and we do that through our 5 pillars. But in terms of funding, we don't fund any of our destinations, and I can't foresee that changing in the future.
Thank you. Monsieur Sarrazin.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Of course, if I may add some information, and you can correct me, Bonnie, if I'm wrong, but like these organizations, I don't know if they if we take like Eastern Ontario Agri-Food Network, for example, if they become like 2 organizations or they still keep, one organization under one name, but these guys can still apply through the programs, the federal programs and the provincial program, and they can have extra funding. And this is something that we see happening. They had funding in the past. Is that correct, Mr. For the organization itself. It does, like Louis Bellin would represent, but still as an organization, he would be able to get some funding from the federal level, from the provincial level?
Yeah, that's all separate. Yes,
Yeah.
you can ask for fund. Say basically you could be funded from Trillium, you could be funded from Experience Ontario or other programs at the same time. Sometimes you just can't, but it's stated. But yes, it is a possibility.
And I think if you get a good report card, you're active as an organization, you have more chance. And I think I've never seen an organization like Eastern Ontario Agri-Food Network as involved as it was in the past. We've all sat on different boards, and we weren't impressed at the time. But now it seems like they're going in a good direction when it comes to agri-food tourism, and I'm sure they can do better for the tourism industry in our region.
Mr. Kirby.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. For example, if you're having an event, would funding be available for, let's say, a band and for entertainment?
Yes and no.
I'd like the yes side. Then.
Okay. We have our partnership funds, so it's a 50-50. So the event would be welcome to apply. Now, this year it was for new events only, just because we've funded events in the past that tend to come back each year, and at some point you have to say you have to be sustainable. That's really not our job, is to continue to fund events. So depending on what we set up for our partnership fund categories next year, there could be potential that yes, any events within the United Counties could apply.
Thank you.
Also, just as an example, sir, so you were talking about an activity you've been to many years ago on the Ottawa River, right? Which would be tourism-related activities. Then you would come to us, like the government directly, to see if there's a program open. And then we would help you out if there is funds available.
Okay. Just, Mr. Parizien, sorry to bother you there. Remember we left Hawkesbury and went in the boat to Rockland, and there was a band in there that night, and there was music in Hawkesbury. Do you remember that?
Mr. Warden, Mr. Kirby, I do.
Yes.
But I don't think that has a real
Was it not
relationship.
something to do with the Festival de Rivière?
Yeah, but that no longer exists, unfortunately.
No, but it no longer exists, but possibly it's something we could look into?
Perhaps, sir, perhaps.
Okay.
I you know what? I don't recall this specifically, but I do recall the ride in the tube.
Probably that's partly why you don't remember. All right, thank you.
Mr. Saturday.
If I may add to this, since I've been elected as your member of provincial parliament, I've seen a nice amount of money from the Ministry of Tourism in all of your events. The Vinklekill Fair, the Russell Fair. Every year they've been getting some money. So this is something that will still be able to go on. And if you have a new event that's coming, you'll be able once again. But I just say sometimes we don't realize that. But there was millions of dollars given in the last year just for events in our township, in our county. So that's important to know. Maybe we could share the information with you, but there's a lot of money being put, especially with the Reconnect Festival that happened after the COVID. A lot of organizations got a lot of money, and it's nice to see that, we're getting back for events, and for sure it's nice. And I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the Ministry of, Tourism, Culture, and Sport for this initiative. Thanks.
Very good. Conclusion. All good? Anything else you would like to add?
I just have one question. When would the resolution go to your council? Is that next week? Just so I can get a time frame, and I'll wait direction from you.
If Madam Clerk can have a resolution for next week, it would be next week, but Mr. Parizien will definitely give you an answer right now.
Mr. Warden, yes, it will be next week, but we'll need information from your organization to draft a resolution with Ms. Cadieux so that we have all of the information possible and craft something that's meaningful and not require us to prepare a report on this, because it's the last thing I want to do. We're kind of late in the game. It's already Wednesday. Packages have to leave tomorrow or tonight. So we're going to need to speak with you once we're done here to make sure that we have all our ducks in order.
Very good. So that will be next week. Madam Murdoch, thank you very much for the presentation. Very nourishing, very important for our region to reflect what's available out there, and you're a perfect example. Monsieur Bédard, merci de la présentation ou des commentaires bien appréciés, une personne qu'on ne connaissait pas, donc fait plaisir de vous connaître. Monsieur Sarrazin, en tant que représentant de notre région, merci de l'effort puis de nous impliquer dans Prescott-Russell. Je pense que c'est une belle région, puis de faire partie de RTO 9, ça serait un atout pour Prescott-Russell. Sur cette note, this concludes our presentation with Mrs. Rudock. So have a nice day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
On s'en va à l'item numéro 5, adjournment. Proposeur appuyeur, M. Leroux, appuyé de Mr. Kirby. All those in favor? Those against? Carried. Merci beaucoup. Bonne journée.